we need to start living in harmony with who we are, with what our God-given abilities are. We have some of the most complex and amazing tools that you were just born with, you were just kind of born with and given all this amazing stuff. And most of us kind of don't use it. We don't use it enough in our everyday lives. We don't balance creativity and innovation. We tell ourselves we can't do it. We don't want to fail because we worry about failing and we worry about what other people might think or whatever. And I think a growth mindset is essential in everything we do, because if we're willing to make mistakes, if we're willing to go through some trials and tribulations, we're going to arrive at a higher evolution than where we started, simply because we've taken that risk, when we've taken that chance. And
No
that
risk,
might
no
be
reward.
what?
Welcome to the King Dems Podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary people and dissect hot, relevant topics that shape our world. From visionary leaders to trailblazing creatives, we uncover the mindset, strategy, and grit behind greatness. Whether it's business, culture, or personal growth, we ask the real questions. This isn't just conversation, it's transformation. The King Dems Podcast. Your next breakthrough starts here.
Music licensing reimagined.
We're live, ladies and gentlemen. You all once again. Welcome to the King Dems Podcast. And today I have with me a very, very special, interesting, highly inspiring, and of course, highly resourceful individual, Mick Welcome, fighting out of the United States of America by way of anywhere in Israel. Mick Welcome, Nir Bashan. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you? Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Wow. It's great having you. Your name is Nir, but you're not near me. You're on the other side of the pond.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to make a pun with your name. How did you survive with that kind of a name, in America, in high school? Like, tell me about
No,
it. They must
I
have
know.
trolled you
Yeah,
a lot.
there's a lot of teasing, a lot of like, my brother's friend used to call me Robert. That was my name for a long time, because it's like,
Why?
because of Robert De Niro. So De Niro, they took it and they just started calling me Robert. So that was, yeah, I was like, really? That's how they did it. And that's how it was, man, for a while. Yeah, hey, Rob.
Rob, like Americans are fond of like switching people's names, like just playing around with people's names. But sometimes it's fun. But you need a thick skin sometimes,
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Yeah,
it can be a lot to the faint-hearted.
yeah.
Basically, it can be a lot. Like your personal journey has been fascinating, and of course, you're a creative person. But like, how did the creativity first, become central to your life's mission?
Yeah, I noticed that, was running a bunch of companies for a while, and I noticed that the one thing more important than the bottom line, more important than the spreadsheets and all the
The
reports.
spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking to an accountant.
Yeah,
I do
man.
like,
At
I like
the
the
end,
spreadsheets.
at the end of the day, it was just, I noticed that in order for a company to do really well, not just, survive or show sort of, increments of improvement or sort of traditional KPI measurement, in order for some extraordinary transitions to happen, some extraordinary growth and amazing client engagement and on, you had to have something creative, something innovative, something that kind of was able to pierce through traditional measurement. And that turned me to creativity and innovation.
So essentially, you couldn't excel even though you're using Excel.
Good. That's good.
So you had to be creative. Your book, The Creator Mindset, it was named, on Blinkist's top 100 nonfiction books. And the interesting thing, where I come from, they say if okay, I don't know if you can pick the Nigerian pidgin English. They say if you don't get evidence, you go explain tire. So Blinkist is one of my favorite apps right? So I have a whole year subscription on Blinkist. So hey guys, see, this is Blinkist, and maybe this is an appeal for Blinkist to become to become a sponsor for the show, because basically they listed your book, as one of the top 100, nonfiction books. But what's the core principle of the creator mindset?
So the Creator Mindset was my first book with McGraw-Hill, and that was a book about the drive to make creativity and innovation in an everyday world, right? That was big. It was about the importance of creativity in general, the importance of being more creative and innovative, and it was kind of big picture. And a lot of the reviews that I got as people were reading it, and over the years, it came out a few years ago, was like, Nir, this is really cool. Now you got to connect the dots, right? Because you gave us a lot of big picture stuff, but I'm an accountant working at one of the big threes. How do I take that and implement it into everyday creativity? And that's what the new book is about, the solution mindset, which is about taking sort of the big philosophical ideas and narrowing them down into a set of tools, a set of repeatable sort of things that anybody can do to improve creativity no matter what they do.
I very much align with what you are saying. I very much align with your philosophy. And of course, I think that's the main reason why I have you on the podcast today. Like I was telling you before we started the port, when your agent reached out to me, I was like, okay, these are the kind of guys I like to speak with. Because just like Morgan Anderson, gave me that title, you are a modern day business philosopher. And that is what I am. I live for creativity. I am an ex Big Four accountant, right? But the core of what I do today is creativity. I'm a business, advisor, a fractional CFO, a founder, of companies. But creativity, I have discovered, is what can help you to excel. Just like the joke, even when you use Excel, it doesn't mean you would excel. Like
For
the
real.
creative mindset is very, very important. And I like the title of the new one, that is talking about solutions. I notice in this age and time, a lot of people, or most people, I would say, are very quick to complain and list out problems. And then I ask, okay, out of these problems you've listed, can you give me just one solution?
Yeah.
But no, people don't have solutions, but they know the problems. Like, why? Make it make sense. Like, don't be a problem identifier, be a solution provider. And, with the technology, especially with AI in this age and time, right? The future belongs to the solution providers. Yeah, and I think it's something that should be embedded in the educational system, the educational curriculum, for the kids, growing up in today's world.
No
You
doubt.
know, yeah, I'm doing
No
my
doubt.
own my own fair share. I sponsor the annual economic students conference in
Okay.
Obafemi Awolowo University. That's the university, that I had my first degree, in economics from. They are to analyze, episodes of the podcast and, come up with innovative solutions to economic problems in Nigeria. And I have, a prize for the top three students in that competition. Why am I into, projects like that? Because I very much align with that solution mindset. I don't like problem identifiers. I love solution providers. And, a very big thank you to you for your time, today on the podcast. I always say that an attitude of gratitude is good attitude. And, when a person shares their time with you, they're sharing their life with you because the SI unit for measuring life is time. and it always makes me happy when I get to interact with, high level, thought leaders and, philosophers like yourself that align with, the authentic and genuine philosophy that I preach. And in today's world, it's not just enough to preach it and to teach it. We also have to walk the talk. And it's wonderful speaking with people like yourself that walk the talk. You have actually advised, companies like our American Airlines, Porsche. Can you share a practical, memorable story about how creativity helped to transform the bottom line, company results, company performance in the course of your career?
Yeah, definitely. So I work with companies and associations and groups all the time. A lot of the current thinking, especially in corporate America and even around the world, is that what has worked yesterday is an indication of what will work tomorrow. And that is no longer the truth, right? With all of the tools coming out, with AI, with all of this new,
We live in a
yeah,
fast-paced world.
yeah. And, a lot of companies are a little bit afraid of the change and a little bit afraid of taking chances because, there's a lot on the line and they're worried that maybe it's too risky or maybe it's you know not properly thought out, or maybe it's a rash decision, or maybe it's something that we haven't really established. The problem with that type of thinking is that it's very much reactive instead of proactive. And what I help companies do is come up with a series of tools to enable staff, frontline leadership, whatever it is, to solve problems in a new and a different way and move away from the fear of what may happen or what may not happen and move into a solution mindset where we can come up with ideas that would help solve everyday problems. And it makes it less scary, Ademola, like less scary, and it makes it more inviting for people to come up with ideas.
You know that the human mind is typically, how would I say, scared of new ways of doing things, right? It's just default, mentality. That's how they say get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean, I just worked with a group, recently, and I'll to protect their innocence, right? Well, I won't tell you who they are, although they're a famous company. And, they were literally like, hey, how do we show an ROI over customer satisfaction? Like, I know that it's really good for customers to be happy, but at the end of the day, how do we equate that to like a measurable ROI? And I was like, you're looking at the completely wrong equation and you're trying to make it make sense, right? It'd be like, trying to see why a toaster is not making you a pizza. The toaster's not meant to make you a pizza. A pizza oven or whatever is supposed to make you the pizza. And they didn't understand very much the correlation between one thing that's meant to do something and another that's meant to do something else. They got, hey, is the ROI of spending on a customer being happy? And we went through this whole exercise about how important, customer satisfaction is, and word of mouth, and the best form of advertising is basically something you guys have never paid for. And they're like, whoa, blown away at just very basic principles of why you should invest in being creative and more innovative.
Speaking of customer satisfaction, I strongly recommend that you watch episode 100 of this podcast. And that is what it is about. It is basically about, service, uh, customer service. And interestingly, I did get a text via WhatsApp from an ex-colleague at PwC. And let me see what he said. He said, well done, bro. This one is particularly interesting for me.
Uh,
And my response to him was highly relatable because we are all service users. Who out there doesn't use services? So
percent. I mean, we're all in there's some form of customer engagement that we all do. There's some form of relationship. You could say, Nir, I'm an internal auditor and I never touch this stuff. Like I just sit and I look at it, but you touch somebody whose expense that you're looking at, you touch somebody whose report or whatever, you make an impact. And I think we need to change our mindset a little bit to understand that no matter what we do, no matter who we are, everybody has an impact in customer service, in the impact
absolutely.
of the relationship between two human beings that's always there. Some of the best businesses on earth understand that two businesses that relate to each other on a human level are some of the most successful on earth.
Absolutely. But in terms of that creativity, right, what are the biggest misconceptions that business leaders have about creativity?
So one of the biggest ones they have is that it's for artists, right? They think, hey, Nir, we're not artists. We don't paint or draw or do dancing. You know, we're in the coffee business, or we ultra luxury car manufacturer, and explaining to them that art is just a tiny sliver of the creative spectrum, right? It's just like it's just the one that people are most familiar with. And I tell them, what if we were able to solve some of the most pressing issues by thinking of things a little bit more creatively and a little bit differently? Coming up with those types of solutions, I think, would be amazing. And they're like, yes, I'm in. Once you decouple creativity and innovation from art, I think you unlock possibility that is endless.
Absolutely. There is, or would I say, there's exponential, potentials, right, when you unlock higher levels of creativity. With higher levels of creativity, it's just exponential in terms of what you're able to achieve. And that's why it is said that the mind is a very powerful tool. There's nothing you cannot achieve, with the power of the mind. And I know
Big
that
time.
I'm a testimony to that. You know, as long as you put your mind to something, you can always achieve it.
So literally the second book that I wrote, The Solution Mindset, is coming out in January 2026. It's on Amazon. Please go do a pre-order. It's going to be a massive, massive book. And basically the premise is that any problems that humanity has gotten themselves into, anything, Ademola, from global climate change to, water systems to all kinds of things that we've gotten ourselves into, everything we can get ourselves out of by becoming more creative and innovative. And that's what the entire book's about. I took 10 of my friends from all over the world and I featured them in the book, and they're tackling some of the most pressing issues on earth right now simply because they are creative and innovative for no other reason.
I do not know if you are a religious man, but I'm a religious. I don't. Would I say I don't like to call myself religious? I'm godly. So I'm a Christian, right? The Bible actually says something. As a man thinketh in his heart, in his mind, so is he. So even religion,
100%.
yeah, attests to the power of the mind. You know,
No doubt. No
there's a
doubt.
portion in the Bible it says, "I've not given to you the spirit of fear, but the spirit of, joy, love, and of a sound mind." The Bible
We
attests to
were we
the
were
strength
given
of a
these
sound
things for a
mind.
reason.
Yeah.
This is now time to tap into that, to rediscover it, to allow ourselves the permission to then go and make a better world, to make better solutions for problems that we've gotten ourselves into. That time is right now.
The time is right now. I always love to say that the best time to do anything is now. I'm that now person. Yesterday is gone. The best time is always now. The best time to act is now.
100%.
Because, yeah, and growing up, I did see that idiom where they say a stitch in time saves nine, but I think it's actually a lie. It saves more than nine. It does save more than nine, I can tell you for free. You often mention that creativity is a measurable and repeatable business tool. So, can you provide an example of how companies measure creativity's impact?
Yeah, so it really is about changing your mindset and looking at things in a bit of a different way. I think we've been sort of beat from childhood, from college, from schools that if you can't attach a number to something, then it doesn't exist. It's fake or it's not real or whatever. And I ask people who say that, are you married or do you have a husband or wife or somebody you love? And they go, yeah, of course. I love my, why are you asking me? And I'm like, cool, give me a measurement of how much you love them.
On a
Yeah,
scale of 1 to 10.
on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Is it a 9, a 9.5? Is it an 8? They're like, well, I would never even think of measuring love for a child or an animal, a dog or a cat. I would never think of measuring that. And I'm like, cool, then why would you think of measuring things like empathy, how empathetic you are as a company, how you deal with your employees, how much listening you do on conference calls? Because people are on conference calls all day, right? On Teams or something like this. And they go, okay, cool. I'm being more empathetic. I'm being more creative. How do you measure that? Well, you don't. You don't really have direct ROIs. You have different types of measurement that add up to an experience that is transformational. And again, we're looking for the toaster to make us a pizza, or we're looking for, the grill to make us a, bread. It's like, that's not really how it works, right? And so the transformational elements of ROI come from a different way of looking at things. It comes from the impact of word of mouth. It comes from the employees having a better chance of creating on their own. I worked with a company a while ago. We instituted a couple of these things in meetings, don't talk over other people and, be respectful and all of these basic creative sort of element. And another department over a few months was able to come up with a new piece of software that was able to sell to a particular market. And all of that originated in the fact that they were able to be heard in meetings. They felt more respected. They felt better about being at work, and they were able to create things to add value to the company. And that's the ROI, right? The added value that you get. You can't always A equals B and B equals C and C equals D. It is about believing that there are fragmented pieces of the human experience that have to be united in order to see the benefit that you're looking for. And if we use tools of 100, 200 years ago, and we expect them to measure something important today, we're wrong, and it'll never happen. We need to shift our mindset to understand that some of these investments that we're making in creativity and innovation will pay off in ways that we don't expect. And we're a little uncomfortable by that. But the more we end up practicing it, the more we believe in its value because we see it.
Absolutely. I was actually smiling because I remembered something when you talked about, putting a number to love or affection for your loved ones. And my strong advice is never, ever, ever do that. I remember when I was younger, I think my early 20s, I had this girlfriend and she baited me into that question. She was like, oh, on a scale of 1 to 10, how beautiful do you think?
Oh, she asked?
How beautiful do you think I am? Oh, man, I was young, dumb, and broke.
Right? You were like 10 plus 10.
And then, I was like, "Oh, I think you're a 7/10." And do you know that this girl was so upset?
My gosh. Wow.
Whoa! So, man, I learned my lesson there and then. If anybody ever asks me for a number,
Never. Never.
I don't. I have no numbers for people, man.
Wow.
Well, it's really crazy. Like it doesn't make sense. Attributing numbers to everything. I'm a numbers guy. I pride myself in being a numbers guy, but I always say that the best, decisions are made when you take into cognizance quantitative and qualitative factors. The qualitative factors in life are ultra important, but we try to just streamline them into a numbers game. Life is more than just numbers.
We've gotten really good at overdeveloping one side of the brain, and we've kind of underdeveloped the other, right? So our
Uh-huh.
brain is, there's a lot of crossover, but it's basically, creative and innovative, and the other side's analytical. And we've raised the value on analytics so high and lowered the value of creative and innovative solutions so low that we're a little bit out of balance.
Uh-huh.
And we need to find a way to balance ourselves so that we can offer society, the world, our community, our workplace, a bit of a better balanced approach to problem solving. And we can't get there until we sort of equalize the value of analytics and creativity. A lot of people, and I work with a ton of financial services organizations. I keynote on a regular basis to accountants, to internal auditors, to mortgage bankers,
To
and
my colleagues.
to your colleagues. Yeah, exactly. And basically, they're like, whoa, time out. Like, I've spent my whole life developing that wonderful analytics, and it's very, very important. But it's not about getting rid of the analytics. It's about balancing it now with a more creative approach and listening to some of those soft skills, developing them, and keeping us a little bit more in balance so that we could offer better solutions to our particular problem. I
I think
believe.
you were eavesdropping on my conversation yesterday
Huh.
night. Like I said, the same exact word I use, soft skills. When I was speaking with my doctor friend, I was telling him I actually think the soft skills are more important than the technical skills.
100%,
Yeah.
especially the way the world is going now with AI and all these tools that are available that are analytical primary tools, right? The human mind and its ability to connect three things, become creative, to connect different ideas and make it something new is something that a computer can't replicate. They'll never be able to replicate it. And that is what you bring to the table. We keep ratcheting up the analytics and the quality of it, and it's amazing, right? But we keep kind of like, oh, creativity, it's not serious, and we keep shoving that part down. We need to equalize it. And I believe that every human being on earth, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, has the ability to solve problems in your DNA. It is who you are as a human being. You don't need a computer or access to the internet or, the craziest, newest AI, large language model. What you need is the ability to tap in to your DNA and balance out your brain so that you're creative and you're analytical. That
Uh-huh.
is the top end of human thinking. And when
Even the basic, even the basic, when you think about like the hunter gatherers, in their communities, they actually display and demonstrate problem solving skills, from setting up fires to like hunting to the tools they use. The human mind has always been a solution, mindset at default, even at the basic level of humanity. So just alluding to your point.
100%, and they've even found, we reference it in the book, that scientists have found there's 26 different genes, right, that everybody carries. You have, I have, everybody has, every human has, that are specific genes that are creative and innovative genes. It's in our DNA. It's who we are. And when we keep shoving down one side of our humanity and raising up another side, we are forever out of balance. And we need to find that balance to be able to solve individual problems. I'll give you an example. Chapter 1 in my book, right, is about my friend Tito Benacourt. And Tito a surfer. He's 16 years old, was 16 years old. and he kept surfing the same spot by his house in Tahiti. And then one day he goes out there and there's no surf. So they dive down and they see the reef had like bleached out. It's not looking good. And he goes home like all of us would do, and he like starts Googling like what's going on with, and he learns all of this stuff about, this reef is dying for this reason or that reason, whatever. He goes and he talks to the scientists because they're on the island there in Tahiti. And he tells them, hey guys, I've got some really good ideas. Like, let's do this or do that with the reef. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down, dude. You're 16. Like, you need to go to school. You need to get a degree. You need to become a marine biologist. Then you need to get a doctor, and then you got to pass this test and that test. Come see us in like 30 years or like 15 years once you go through school and all of that. And he was like, guys, I love you and I respect what you do, but absolutely not. Like, I'm going to go and do this. And today he has the largest coral restoration business on Earth. And all it took was that human ingenuity to balance out the creative and the analytics, right? The analytics told him, absolutely not. You got to go to school. And the creative told him, go for it, dude. Go for it. Go get out there and do it. He got some rope. He got some reef. He dove in. He planted it. He learned how to feed them. He learned how to get it to grow. He learned what species grew where and so on and so forth. And they're restoring reef all over the world. And those scientists who told him, hey, slow down, little buddy, now work for him at that company. And all it took was just that ability to get going and get started. That's what the first chapter of the book is about. Get started. Go out there. Take a leap of faith on an idea. It's okay that you're a little bit out of balance, that you love your analytics and you're like pushing down your creative side, but allow yourself that balance, and maybe, just maybe, you'll have an idea that'll be so strong it can change humanity.
Of that. And again, I see that you did eavesdrop on our conversation yesterday. And the interesting thing is, it was actually with a doctor friend of mine who's been on the podcast, Dr. Hamza. I need to report you to Dr. Hamza because part of our conversations was he told me, "Oh, I'd like to do a PhD. Like, you need to do a PhD," telling me I should do a PhD. And I told him, nah, I'm not really interested in that right now because I'm more interested in practical real world solutions. I'm more of the real world solution guy than, doing, academic research. And that is exactly what you were just talking about right now, right? Because I'd rather be that guy, solving real world problems than, just writing papers, and theses all around the place that doesn't get to solve real world problems. And that is what is more important. In my opinion, I stand to be corrected. Like, if you're not solving real world problems, then why are you putting in a lot of effort into something? So clearly the PhDs, the doctors, the professors would be working for that guy who has that, mindset of just providing a practical solution to these things. And in the corporate world these days, it's really fast paced. But how can people still apply creativity in these fast paced work environments? What's your recommendation?
So, I mean, just to go back to your point about the doctor, right? Like, this is my hope, right? My hope is through my work and through the work that you're doing, which is brilliant. It's like God-given work, right? I hope that you reach somebody on this podcast that's listening to us right now who goes, oh my gosh, like this, I get it. I have an idea too. And it doesn't have to be global. It doesn't have to be community. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be just
some people like perfection. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. I always tell people, go and watch episode 1 of my podcast and watch this one, then we'll have a conversation. Just do it. Just get started.
Just get out there.
Start from somewhere.
100%.
Like, you will improve on the go. Like, pride yourself in learning, pride yourself in, having a body of work that actually demonstrates improvement over time. It's simple.
That's simple. That's what it's about. And I'm hoping through this work that you're doing and that I'm doing, we touch one person who will go to
Mhm.
work the next day and change something a little bit and become a
Yeah.
little bit more creative and start to live in a better balanced
Mhm.
life. I talk in the book in some of the later chapters about how we're so unhappy all the time, right? I got all the research, and people in the West generally are super unhappy. Like in England, here in the US, like therapists and people are like constantly talking about how unhappy they are, unhappy with their lives or their jobs, with their whatever. And a lot of that comes from living so far out of balance, right? We're not balancing.
And they're not even eating balanced diets.
Yeah,
Got you.
for sure. Yeah, so I think a lot of that comes from, being unbalanced and not allowing our creative side and our analytic side to come together and make us the best that we can be. And we're always going to be unhappy. We're always going to wonder why things aren't going the way they want, why, we're not happy and why we're not where we want to be. It's because of those things. I'm hoping somebody listens today and goes, my gosh, like what a good idea. Like I'm going to go, if the guy got some rope and attached a reef to it and dove in and like planted it and waited and checked it
Simple.
out. Now he learned. I mean, he didn't do it right the first time. He didn't do it right the second time. It took many, many iterations, but the will to balance ourselves, to use analytics and use creativity to maximize the human experience can be done at your work tomorrow. It doesn't have to be something that's
In order to succeed, you need to fail fast. You need to fail multiple times or fail fast.
yeah,
Fast.
yeah.
That's how you get there. Rome was not built in a day, they say. But I just hope this episode like really, gets to the people that need it, because a lot of people need, what we are saying today. I know literally, a lot of human beings that hesitate, for different reasons. For some people, perfectionist mindsets, for some people, low self-esteem, for some other people, misconception of, oh, I don't have enough, or I am not enough, or like just start, and it will shock you, it will amaze you how much you can achieve if you just start. And of course, yourself and myself are, testaments to this mindset, to this philosophy of starting something and improving on the go. And it's well documented, for the world to see that there has been improvement over the years, in these individuals, in their body of work. And of course, there's still potential for more. The only room that never gets completely filled up is the room for improvement. So yeah, take pride in improving
It's
over
it's an
time.
evolution, not a revolution.
God bless you. The growth mindset versus the fixed mindset.
Exactly. Exactly right.
I know, like, what's your take on it?
So honestly, I think that we need to start living in harmony with who we are, with what our God-given abilities are. We have some of the most complex and amazing tools that you were just born with. You were just kind of born with and given all this amazing stuff. And most of us kind of don't use it. We don't use it enough in our everyday life. We don't balance creativity and innovation. We tell ourselves we can't do it. We don't want to fail because we worry about failing and we worry about, oh, what other people might think or whatever. And I think a growth mindset is essential in everything we do, because if we're willing to make mistakes, if we're willing to go through some trials and tribulations, we're going to arrive at a higher evolution than where we started, simply because we've taken that risk, when we've taken that chance. And
No
that
risk,
might
no
be
reward.
what?
No risk, no reward.
Right. And it might be a little bit of an improvement at work in your reports or in your pivots on Excel, right? Oh, cool. Wow. That might be the whole
Yeah,
thing.
pivot tables.
Right. But it also might be something incredible for your community or your family. It might be incredible for your town where you live in. It might be incredible for the world. Just taking that risk, letting yourself be okay with failure is something I think that we need to do. I wrote in the book about prisons in Norway because I looked all over the world and I saw that in the United States, for instance, something like the recidivism rate, which means that's the rate of reoffending, like somebody who goes to prison, they come out and they come back into prison, is like, I don't know, 80%. I can't remember the number. I could look it up, but it's very, very high. It's one of the highest in the world, right? Meaning that somebody who goes in for anything, whether it's like a marijuana offense or like a DUI, it doesn't have to be violent or whatever.
They're likely to go back.
Anybody is 80% more likely to go back within a certain span of time. I think it's 6 years.
Wow.
So I looked at Norway, right? Norway has one of the lowest rates of recidivism in the world, meaning that if somebody goes to prison in Norway, they come out and then they're more or less productive members of society. So I'm like, I want to talk about failure, right? Because this is failure to the extreme, right? We in business, make mistakes or whatever, and, we kind of steer the course. But this is like, life and death type of stuff. So I wanted to look at who in the world is dealing with mistakes at the highest level and the most severe level. And what Norway is doing is they have a bunch of programs where they take a prisoner in who's made a mistake, something along the line, not all violent. Some are like tax evasion, they didn't want to pay this tax or whatever they did. And they take them in and their focus is on rehabilitation, not on punishment. So they have small prison, they live in the community, they give the guards the ability to interact with them, they have meals together, all of their meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, they sit down, they have meals together. In the US, that would be like, what? In England, that would be what? Like, how would you have a meal that person is a convict or whatever? They take all of that away in that country and they treat people as people. And they give them tools and they give them 3, 4, 5 days away from prison at home. They come back and it's really about rehabilitation. It's really about failing successfully. And what I learned from those prisons that applies to us in the business world is that we tend to overemphasize punishment in the business world and underemphasize rehabilitation. When somebody makes a mistake at work, we're like, they made a mistake, get them out of here, fire them, get whatever measures of punitive sort of damage we could throw at them, let's throw it at them. But those mistakes that people make are really raw opportunities to get better, to improve, to learn something new, and to evolve. And what they're doing in Norway is they're humanizing the mistake. And I think that's exactly what we need to be doing at work, allowing people to fail more successfully, to fail quicker, to fail without having so many ramifications of, punishment. And allowing somebody to go out there and make these mistakes like all of the people in my book have done, from water, coral reef to water purification to all kinds of the schools in Seychelles, Africa. Everybody's made mistakes. The people who have gotten to the next level, who have evolved through it, are those who learned how to take those mistakes. And instead of blaming everyone, they're more like Norway. They tend to rehabilitate. They tend to look and see why the mistakes were made. They tend to offer tools to get back up. And the people who get back up tend to do very well.
I was just trying to look up something, right? If would I say memory or my thought serves me right, I think prisons are actually referred to as correctional institutes,
Institutions, yeah.
right? Correctional institutions. However, it's like you're saying they actually do the opposite, and Norway is the one that is getting that concept properly.
Correct.
Because,
Correct.
rehabilitation is essential for correction.
Yeah. I mean, we can't keep getting, if you're not in an environment where mistakes are okay and mistakes are something that you can make to learn from, that part of the fear that stops people from taking a chance in the first place, right? And going out and doing something because they're afraid of the ramifications of making those mistakes. But if we're able to make those mistakes much more survivable, much more acceptable, much more of a learning experience, then our chances of success are much higher. It's just a simple mind shift. That's all it is. It's not like some great, a big idea. It's just like, okay, cool. What happened? You hit reply all on the company financials for quarter 2. Whoops.
Reply.
Whoops.
We've all done that at some point.
100%. I've done it. What do you do, right? How do you learn? And do you just fire that person, right? It maybe, if they do it every week, yeah, okay, cool. It's like a pattern. That's not a mistake, right?
Company troll.
Right. Like if it's once in a while, right? What do we learn from it? What can we do? How do we advance, right? Is it an email that you send out right after and you say, hey, really sorry, please ignore that email. I hit reply all, my mistake, shouldn't have happened, but I'm sorry, comma, Nir, send, is that way better than firing the person for doing that? Yes. And sure, like in my case, I got ghosted by like a lot of people. They were like, oh, that guy cannot be trusted. But some people came up to me and they were like, Nir, like, I got to tell you, like, how many times I got by like the chance, I looked at the to line and I was like, oh my gosh. And I hit delete. It could have happened to me. And I built relationships there that lasted a lifetime simply because we were bonding over the idea, the connection, the networking over how we both could have made those mistakes, right? And what ended up happening for me in this particular case is time healed all wounds, right? In like 3 months, everyone forgot about it. Everybody kind of moved on and like,
Body always moves on.
yeah. So
people always move on, there's a lot of stuff to always talk about, there are always like new trends. It's like trends. So when people like go viral, I just laugh. I'm like, the next hot kid is coming.
exactly. Yeah, 100%. So
Whoa.
it's one of those things, man. Like it's gonna be fine. It's okay to make those types of mistakes. It's okay to, and looking at the prison system helped me understand how substantial things were being treated, and it gives you a really nice recipe for how to deal with things that are on a much lower scale.
You know, we've actually been speaking a lot about creativity. I'd like for you to touch on your personal life, your personal growth, your personal career, and give what I say an example of how you have applied creativity in a very resourceful way and it has created, great dividends for yourself as a person.
Yeah, so I used to run agencies in Los Angeles when I was there, advertising agencies. And I would notice that every time, I did a presentation at a company or whatever, people would come out of the woodwork, right, to listen. And one of the most important things that I learned is that nobody cares what you know until they know that you care, right? And so I spent many years just like, look at me, look at how much I know. And what really started this shift, and it started me writing the first book 10, 15 years ago now, is the shift into understanding why and how to get your message across, right? If you just like bulldoze people over with your message, they don't really care. But if you show them how it can improve their lives and how it can be beneficial to them, and you show them that you care about them learning and you care about them sort of capturing this knowledge, then it it's something that's more easily digestible and people go, yeah, cool, I'm interested. And so what I did as a fundamental shift, and it's something that anybody can do, whether you're, an accountant or working in aerospace or an engineer or whatever, is start to recognize the people that you're working with or the client or the job and learn some substantial things that are important to them. Like, I'm working with an architect. They're building this building. That angle of the roof is really important, right? Because it gives the building its flavor, its character, and blah, blah, blah. And yes, the water collects on the roof. And yes, it might not be an ideal angle or whatever it is. Then go and speak to a particular line item in the budget that deals with the roof or whatever. Having that empathy and that understanding that that's important to them, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It's just my example. But having having that sloped roof be so important to them becomes, and knowing that becomes an incredible empathy, a bridge builder that you can use to then, get whatever it is that you guys are doing in a more harmonious way across the line. A lot of people think that, got to go to battle. We're going to go to battle. Like, oh, my company needs this. I'm going to go fight. I need that. I'm going to go fight. They don't understand that the fighting is not a constructive sort of engagement. And what I learned very early on personally was that if I were to do a presentation that I thought was amazing, but I didn't have some of the elements that were important to others, nobody cared. When I took elements that were important to the group and I packaged them in a way that made it effective for everybody, instantly people were into it. And so having that ability to understand creatively that that nobody's an island, that you must go and build consensus, build things together. And the best idea sometimes comes from 5 or 6 different people, not your own mind, is an incredibly liberating concept. And that's what I learned very early on.
The best ideas oftentimes come from the least expected sources. I
Which
think
may or may not be you.
most times not you, actually, unfortunately. Like it's just always a good thing to be self-aware, and self-awareness, helps you to accept yourself and also be confident in yourself, that even when you're not the star of the show, you are still an important person, you know, in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. So I think some people get led astray by wanting to always be the star all the time, but it's not possible. Man, we've actually held you way beyond your would I say your schedule on the show. So we'll just try to squeeze out the quick fire round of questions from
Okay.
you. But I'd like for you, before the quick fire round, to just touch on advice to especially the younger generation, because they are the future, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas. And what I see today is that we are at the rise of the creator economy. Creatives, are the future. What are the skills that would differentiate, the successful, creators from, the rest of the pack? And of course, your new book, The Solution Mindset, is coming up in January 2026. Can you give the audience, a preview of, what to expect?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that I think would be incredibly important for your listeners to do, and something that they could do right now, is to choose better words. Choose better words. So I did a lot of research. The English language has a 6-to-1 ratio of negative to positive words, meaning for every like good, there's bad, awful, crappy, crummy, horrible, and terrible, right? Literally 6-to-1 of every positive word to negative word. So I think if your listeners start to choose the words more carefully, especially the younger generation right now, because they communicate so fast on here, and they're always connected and they're not choosing to express themselves in words that are positive. And every day we make a decision of how to choose our words. And when we choose positive words, we get positive results. When we choose negative words, unfortunately, there are way more negative out there than positive. We get less than ideal results. And so one thing you could do right now is think about that next text you're going to send your coworker. Think about the next email you're going to shoot out in an hour to the vendor. And instead of saying, get me the proposal by 2:00, Ademola, say, hi, James. Hope everything's going good. Like, I would love to look at that proposal. You guys have been doing such a good job. Let me know if I can get it. And I guarantee you, you're not only going to get it faster, you're going to get a better proposal. You're going to get James to send, hey, thank you for that feedback. You remember the Johnson project that we worked on 2 months ago? That was really cool because the guy called me and he said, hey, this was great. And then you're going to go, the guy called you? I can call the guy Hey, James, can I call the guy? Yeah, call the guy. It would be great. You get on a call and all of a sudden you discover there's a new job over there. All of this, because you just chose to slow down a second, like it's an extra 2 seconds of your life here, and choose better words. Better communication leads to better results, period. That's something you could do right now, today, from listening to this podcast that will change your life forever.
Okay, I think that's fantastic advice, and I think I am already doing that. Of course, you keep eavesdropping on my communications. So I have a text from a friend. I sent them a proposal I was working on, and I was like, "Oh, could you please review this for me?" And then this person says, "Oh, afternoon, Ade. I read through this. It's very good. You've promoted yourself really well, and the language used is top notch." And
That's cool.
and then I'm like, okay, you're talking about using the right words. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're doing
Already
it
doing
right.
it. That's awesome.
Like it's really important, to use the right words, especially positive words. Very, very important. And I am so happy that you laid it out, very plain in the most simplistic of forms. Thank you very much. But what I'm not happy about is you continuously eavesdropping on my conversations. I don't like it.
I got a line to East London.
Yeah, because you're a West Ham fan. Hey, by the way, guys, this man is a West Ham fan. So his heart is very, very close to
I
this
heard.
place. So we just end with a 5 question quick fire round. Are you ready to rumble? Okay, so number one, what's your favorite creativity hack for immediate inspiration?
Creativity hack. My favorite one has got to be to add a dose of humanity, right? So add some kind of personalization in every outreach that you have, whether it's asking for that proposal, whether it's, meeting with a particular vendor. It is incredibly useful to just address the person as a human being. You never know, Addie, what people have gone through a minute before, an hour before, 2 days before you talk to them, right? They could be going through some of the hardest stuff. They could be, dealing with a loss, or God forbid, something even worse. Just be cool. Just be cool in your interactions. Be a nice person. Be as positive as humanly possible. That hack will see a lot of benefit right away. And the other thing, it just makes you a better human being.
Absolutely. I love that, that touch of personalization is very, very important, especially in this age and time where when a lot of communications are generated by way of AI. But come on, you have to put that personal touch. And by the way, I am AI because my initials are AI. Ademola Isimeme. So stop using me for all of your communications, guys. Number two, one book other than your own book, that everyone should read.
Man, dude, so I read a lot. I'm reading, what's her name? Here, let me look it up. Yeah. There's so many good books, so many good authors. Candice Millard, I like Candice Millard a lot right now. I think she's like on top of her game. Any one of her books, she writes about history, kind of in a philosophical way. Beautiful writer, incredible ideas. Candice Millard, anything she writes, I love.
Wow, interesting. And of course, one writer you guys should look out for and read his book is Nir Bashan, even though his club is very near. So you should get
That's
near
right.
his books.
Near my books.
Three, best advice you've ever received.
The best advice I've ever received is to define the box. So people tell you creativity, think outside the box. It's not about that. It's about defining the box and learning the rules before you break them. That is one thing that I think, I used to teach in graduate school at UCLA and the colleges, and the kids would be like, I got an idea and we're going to break all the rules and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you guys haven't even learned the rules. What do you mean break them? What are you breaking? You haven't learned what to do first. Now learn what to do, then break whatever you want. And they're like, no, we're going to break everything, whatever. I would learn the rules, define the box, right? Learn exactly what you want to do before you just go in there and you say, I'm going to break it all. That's powerful advice.
Interesting stuff. You just reminded me of something that happened at the train station here in London. I think there's a rule regarding bicycles not being put on the trains,
Yeah,
right, in some stations. And there was this guy who was just boldly taking his bicycle. And then, the train station staff was telling him, it's against the rules. Do you know what the guy said?
right.
He said, yes, the rules are there to be broken. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
The kids of this generation, they are another thing. They are
That's
a
their thing.
handful.
Yeah.
Oh, number four, one thing leaders should stop doing immediately.
What do I think leaders should stop doing immediately? I think coming to a meeting, coming to an organization with preconception, right? A lot of times people think they know what's going on in an organization. With my consulting clients, I see this all the time. The reality is completely different. And being able to understand that what your preconceived notions are might be completely wrong is essential in embracing a solution mindset, coming up with creative ideas.
Speaking of creative ideas, if you could go have a dinner date with three creative geniuses, in world history, dead and alive,
Who would it
who,
be?
yeah, who would be your top three?
Man, that's a tough one. I would say,
Should we give you a Mount Rushmore? So let's make it
yeah,
four.
exactly.
Mount Rushmore, let's go.
Rushmore. Let's go. That's good. That would be a good answer. I would say Bob Marley, right? You got to have Bob
Mm,
Marley on the list.
yeah, I love that.
Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt. That would be interesting. That guy was like legend, man. He went to South Africa, the Brazilian forest, and like almost died.
Amazon.
Yeah, he was like crawling, and he was like in his 60s. It's crazy, like how much grit that guy had. Um, and then, gosh, I don't know who the third person would be. Let's say, I don't know, someone like Daniel Pink, the author, or Dan Ariely, the other author. Those guys are genius and some of the greatest thinkers that we have today.
Wow. Interesting company. And of course, with that, we are at the end of today's episode. And of course, we look forward to having you again for episode two
Episode
of,
2.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So from me to you, it's, love and respect to you. Thank you very much for your time today. And of course, our audience, please just advise them, guys, go do the needful. I'm working hard to bring in fantastic individuals like this guy. So do what you have to do, like, share, subscribe, you know, just push this work out. So let it meet the people that need to see this. Don't be selfish. And of course, any last words from you? Do you want to leave a shout out to anybody before you leave?
Guys, the Solution Mindset Wiley and Sons book is coming out January of 2026. It's available right now for pre-order on everything, on Amazon, on wherever you get books in the UK and the US. It's on there. Push the button, order a pre-copy. This is going to be a book that will fundamentally change your life, and I think will give you tools that you can use, incredible tools you can use to solve problems on your own, to come up with ideas on your own, to excel on your own. You don't need something else. You don't need someone else. You can do it. You have the makeup. Everything is ready to go. You are like the prime candidate for solving and coming up with solutions to everyday problems that you're facing. This book will unlock that ability and show you how to do it. The Solution Mindset. Incredible book. I can't wait to get it out into the world.
Shout out to you and the incredible work that you do. And of course, I love solutions. I don't like people who just identify problems. And yeah, I guess I am forgetting something, but I'll probably remember. So, oh yeah, I just remembered now. So basically, yeah, it's a solution, right? So basically, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, guys. I'm gonna put the link to the book, for ease of reference in the show notes. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So it just makes it really easy. You see, that's a solution. So, and of course, guys, keep out of trouble. And of course, keep creating solutions to real world problems. And of course, till you get to see me again, love and respect to you guys. It's goodbye from me.